It's 2 o'clock on a Tuesday, and you have a one-on-one scheduled with your service advisor in 15 minutes. You don't want to go, and neither do they. You're going to go and sit down and open up your spreadsheet, point at a couple of numbers, and say some version of, hey, these need to come up. What's your plan? They're going to nod and say something vague about trying harder, and you're both going to pretend that it was useful. And in 30 minutes, nothing will have changed. Not their performance, not their motivation, and not their relationship. Nothing. And that is not a coaching conversation. That's a compliance ritual. And it's happening every dealership in the country right now. You're not alone. Burning 30 minutes a week per person and producing exactly zero growth. This week in the War Room, I'm going to teach you the single most valuable skill set in leadership. And it's not accountability, and it's not culture, and it's not strategy. The skill that I found that makes all the difference, that makes all of those work, is the coaching conversation. 7 minutes, one truth, one execution move. And if you're a leader who's tired of repeating yourself, tired of agreement without execution, and tired of fighting yourself all the time, do I have a one-on-one or do I not? Then you're in the right place. I'm Chris Hunsicker, and this is the Dealership War Room. This isn't motivation. This isn't theory. This is a daily leadership briefing for people who actually have to produce results in the arena, at work and at home. You're in the war room now, so let's go. Here's the uncomfortable truth. So many managers were never taught to coach, not once. They were top producers, best salesperson, best advisor, best technician. And because they were great at doing that job, someone promoted them to leading the people who do the same job. But it's a different skill, a completely different skill, and no one trained them for it. So what do? They just default to the only leadership model they know, the one that was used on them, which was usually some combination of hit your numbers, figure it out, don't bring me problems. When that doesn't work on this next generation, then they call them lazy. Does that sound familiar? Now, we covered a lot of this in the Gen Z arc, and we covered it in that accountability arc that we did a few weeks ago. And now we're going to get to the root, because here's the principle that holds all of this together. Coaching is year one in the trilogy framework that I teach. Coaching always comes first, before recognition, before accountability, before any of it. Because if your people don't feel coached, then recognition, it feels random. And accountability feels punitive. And culture feels like something that happens to them, not something that they're part of. Coaching is the foundation. And so many stores are trying to build the second and third floors without ever pouring it, without ever pouring the foundation. So what's actually wrong with the typical one-on-one? I would suggest it comes down to three core things. First, it's about the numbers and not the person. The spreadsheet is open, the docs are there. Before the human being sits down, the message is clear. I'm here to talk to you about your output, not you. And the employee adjusts accordingly. They guard, they perform, they tell you what you want to hear instead of what's actually true. Second is that the manager does all the talking. They diagnose, they prescribe, they instruct, and the employee just sits there like a patient being told what's wrong with them. There's a term in psychology for this that really explains this dynamic. It's called the righting reflex. And the instinct is to fix, to tell someone what they should do the moment you hear what's wrong. And it's killing coaching, because the moment you tell someone the answer, you've stolen their opportunity to find it. Coaching isn't telling them what they need to do. It's helping them discover what they and you already know, and then building confidence around it so they can act on it and make something happen. Third, there's no continuity. Last week's conversation had no connection to this week. There's no thread, no arc. There's no sense that the relationship is building towards something. It's a series of disconnected check-ins where you're going to get punished that feel more like audits than development. And people can tell the difference. They can feel it from the minute they walk in. Here's the shift that I want to offer you. What if the one-on-one wasn't about numbers at all? What if it was about the person who produces the numbers? What if you walked in and the first question wasn't, where are your hours? But how you doing? Really? Not as a script, as a genuine question from a leader who actually wants to know. Because here's what the research tells us. When people feel that their leader is genuinely invested in their development, not just their output, their performance goes up. Not because they push harder, they lean in. DC and Ryan's self-determination theory is where this comes from. And we covered a little bit of that in episode 308. And it shows that people perform at their highest when three needs are met consistently: autonomy, competence, and relatedness. A great coaching conversation hits all three. It gives them ownership of their growth, it builds their sense of getting better, and it deepens the connection between them and you. A great one-on-one doesn't manage performance, it unlocks it, and that's its power. Here's today's execution move. I call this the one-on-one reset. Your next scheduled one-on-one, and I hope you have one, I want you to change one thing. Don't open the spreadsheet first. Open the conversation first. Start with 2 minutes of genuine connection. How are things going? Not work things, you things. Then ask one question. What's one thing that's been hard for you lately? And what would help? Listen. Don't fix, don't prescribe, just listen. And then, only then, transition to the business. 2 minutes of connection before 30 minutes of content. That's the reset. And I promise you, the quality of the 10, 15, or 30 minutes that follow will be dramatically different because the person sitting across from you just went from guarded to open, from performing to real. And that is where coaching actually begins. If the idea of transforming your one-on-ones from compliance rituals into the most powerful 30 minutes of your week really resonates with you, in other words, you can feel this, you can see it. Or if you know a manager whose one-on-ones have become dreaded, they're like obnoxious calendar events for both parties, then send them this episode because the meeting isn't the problem. The skill is. And this week, we're building it. Because elite leaders, they don't just meet with people, they coach them. They open with the person, not the spreadsheet. Then they listen before they prescribe. And then finally, they build relationships that make people want to perform, not have to. That's the kind of leader you're becoming here in the war room. And tomorrow, I'm going to give you the complete anatomy of a great coaching conversation. 4 parts that turn any one-on-one into an absolute development session your team will actually look forward to and you will use to produce results. So today, let's go out, create some leadership fire, and I'll see you tomorrow in the Dealership War Room.